Hey everyone, here's another Comic Clerks video. I'm here to talk to you about Flash, the Family of Rogues, and this video will contain spoilers, so I'm just letting you know beforehand. Alright, so we start this episode with Barry working in his lab, and this is when he gets a call from Iris, who is getting shot at in Goldman's tower. So Barry tells her, to go to a window. She's going to have to jump out this window. So she heads to a window and she looks down and she's like, she's not doing that at all. She's not having it. So Barry asks her, does she trust him? She says she trusts him, so she hops out this window. This is when Barry zips over in a flash. He catches her, puts her back down on the ground, and he heads back up, handles the two guys shooting at her, and he comes back down and asks her what was she doing there. Supposedly she's there writing a story on real estate fraud. I guess these guys have been evicting a whole bunch of people wrongfully. And Barry tells her that, no story is worth her life pretty much. So we head to Star Labs. The team is checking out the breach that's in the basement. Professor Stein shows up, and as we all remember in the last episode, he passed out. So it looks like it was just blood pressure, they say. Caitlin fusses over him, but the professor wants, he wants to be a part of this breach conversation. He wants to, toss around his ideas also. And Jay wants to hear his ideas because, this will be his only way home. So they're wondering how Zoom uses the breaches because whenever Cisco throws something at the breach, it pretty much bounces back. And so Barry says maybe you have to be a speedster to be able to use the breach. So he takes off. And so Jay and Cisco are wondering, they know what he's going to do and they start, chuckling about it. And so we see Barry come back in, run straight into the breach and get thrown right back. So, Jay, he says that they should think of the breach as a door. And Earth 2's breach is another door. And in between them is a hallway. So they have to stabilize the door to be able to stabilize the hallway and stabilize the door on the other side in Earth 2. So he dubs this idea the speed cannon. And Cisco loves these names, and he loves Jay even more after, he comes up with this idea. So this is when Stein tells everyone to leave and that they need to take a break. They don't need to be wasting their youth in the lab, pretty much. So we get to a bar where Joe and Francine, this is Iris's mom, they're talking about how, Francine left, and I guess Joe is pretty much paying her off to leave again. This is when Francine declines because she wants to, get in touch with her daughter. I guess this would be like the first time in 20 years. And she says Iris needs her because she just lost Eddie. So Joe pretty much gives her 48 hours to leave. Alright, so we get to CC Jitters, and the team is there getting coffee, where Barry runs into Patty, and it seems like they've named a coffee after the Flash to keep you running all day. So Patty and Barry have a quick little flirtation. Patty heads out to work. This is when Barry brings the team to the coffee when Caitlin seems to be really worried about Professor Stein, so she leaves. And this is when Lisa Snart, aka Golden Glider, bumps into Cisco asking for the team's help. Lisa tells the team Lenny Snart, aka Captain Cold, has been kidnapped, so they head back to Star Labs. This is, when Lisa starts to explain that they were on a heist where she saw her brother get grabbed, but before she could do anything about it, she was knocked out from behind. So she's calling in the favor from when Lenny saves Flash's life in the first season. So she's calling in that debt and that favor, and she expects, the team to help. So Barry wonders how he's even going to locate Snart, And this is when Cisco, he already has a plan in place because the last time he developed the code gun, he put in a way to track it pretty much. So they get the location and Barry heads out to where Snart is, which it looks like Snart isn't in any danger at all. This is when we hear a voice call out to Lenny, and this distracts the Flash for, Lenny to hit him with the cold gun. So the guy's voice we hear is revealed to be Snart's dad, and, they leave for the Flash to freeze pretty much. So Flash tells Cisco, that Lenny hit him with the cold gun. This is when Cisco activates a function in his suit. While designing the suit, Cisco put thermal threading in there, so this pretty much defrosts Barry so, he can get back to Star Labs. And this is when Barry tells Lisa what happens, and she denies, that Lenny would never work with their father. And Cisco pulls her father's mugshot on screen, aka, their dad's name is Louis Snart. And she still insists that Lenny would never work with their dad. And Caitlin, she asks how can they trust her because, her family's full of criminals, they're not going to trust a family of criminals. So this is when Lisa shows them a scar on her neck that was given to her by her dad, and she walks off. So Cisco goes after her, and Lisa starts to explain the abuse her dad dealt out to her and her brother. This is why she knows Lenny would never work with their dad. So Cisco apologizes to her for her father's, behavior, and Lisa claims, she would have turned out a lot worse if it wasn't for Lenny. So she convinces Cisco that if Lenny is with her dad, then he has to be in serious trouble. So we go to Central City Picture News, and we see Iris typing away at her computer when Joe walks in, and he tells her he has something he needs to discuss with her about. This is when Linda comes over. If you don't remember her and Barry went out last season, broke up last season. She comes over to tell them that Iris' story got the front page and congratulates her. Joe not wanting, to give her any bad news right now and ruin her good news, tells her that they can talk later. So we cut to a scene where Barry has located Lenny again at a bar to talk to him. He asks why is Lenny working with Louis since Lisa told them that he hates him. Lenny tells him that it's complicated when dealing with parents. So Barry tells Lenny, to tell him what's going on and to let him help him. Lenny tells him don't try, to save people that don't want to be saved. And this is when Barry tells him that it's not about him. He doesn't want any innocent people, to get hurt. And Lenny, reminds him that they have a deal that no one gets hurt. And Barry leaves him alone while Barry keeps his secret identity. Barry says he can't leave it alone because even though Lenny lives by a code, he's betting that Louis does it. This is when Lenny tells him that he guesses that he'll have to reveal the Flash's identity. And, Barry doesn't really care at this point. He'll take, the Snarts down either way. So Lenny leaves, and, he leaves Barry with the check and heads out. So this is when Barry gets a call for Joe. And at Joe's place, Joe reveals to Barry, the secret about Francine. And Barry wonders why Joe lied about this. And Joe tells him that that his wife did so many things wrong, and he believes what he did would probably be the worst thing than anything that she had ever done because he had lied about it. And Barry tells him that he knows Joe. Joe wouldn't do anything unless he had a good reason, and he says Joe had to be worried about the way Iris would have turned out if Francine had a hand in raising her. And he gives the Snart family as an example how their family turned out. And Barry tells Joe, he has to tell, Iris the truth. And, Joe is pretty much afraid of losing his daughter, for lying to her for so long. But Barry says, they know Iris. She'll forgive him. He just needs to give her a chance. Alright, so with the Snarts, they're planning their heist with another guy. And Lewis is going over their plan while Lenny keeps giving suggestions. But, his father just pretty much disregards him. He doesn't want to listen to him. His plan is the plan. Nothing, none of Lenny's suggestions at all. So we see that, Barry was right pretty much. Lewis doesn't really care about any casualties at all. That goes with the job. Casualties goes with the job. So this extra guy, he's the tech guy, and I guess his name is Rudenberg. And Lewis asks him, has he found a solution for the vault yet? Which he doesn't have a solution at all yet. So he has no way to get in the vault yet. So Lewis asks Lenny, will his cold gun help them get through the lasers that protect the vault? This is, when Rudenberg speaks up and, he starts yelling at Lenny, saying the only reason he's there is because he has that cold gun. And this is when Lewis pulls out a device and presses a button on it. And Rudenberg starts to freak out that his head hurts. And this is when his head explodes. And Lewis walks up to the body and pretty much tells him that no one talks to his son that way. Ruthless, ain't it? He's just blowing people's heads off. Alright, so we get to Rudenberg's crime scene. And we see that Patty has already gone over the body. When Joe and Barry show up, she tells them that something is weird when they see that the guy has been decapitated. She says they don't have an ID yet because they're still looking for pieces of his head. So she makes a really dark joke about stepping on an ear. Barry thinks it's funny, but, Joe isn't having it at all and walks off. So Patty tells Barry she thinks this might be a meta because the head was taken off without any weapon that she was familiar with. So Barry tells her that might not be the case in this situation because he found bomb residue on the body. So they wonder why the rest of the body wasn't blown up, This is when Joe comes back with the ID, his name's David Rudenberg, who was a part of Lewis's crew back in the day. And, Patty knows who Lewis is, Lenny Snart's father, aka Captain Cold. Joe tells her not to call him that. And so this is when Barry and Joe, they walk off to go over the details and that there couldn't be a bomb in Liddy because he hates his dad too much. He'd just rip it out or find a way to get it out. It had to be something else, that Lenny really cared about to make Lewis, be able to make him do stuff. So this is when Barry comes to the realization that Lisa is the one that has the bomb in her. So back at Star Labs, Caitlin is bringing Jay food as he works on the speed cannon to get home. Caitlin tells him that he's making progress, and Jay is upset that he can't do it faster. He explains to her about the rush he had with the Speed Force and that he doesn't think Barry has had any time to enjoy it because all of their, back-to-back fights. This is when Caitlin tells him that, you don't need superpowers to be a hero, and that Jay the physicist has just as much or maybe more to offer than Jay as the Flash. I don't know if that's totally true because, if I, had Barry's powers or Jay's powers, I'd be pretty upset if they were gone also, going to be able to do anything at the speed of light and then slowing down to, regular me, yeah, that would be upsetting to me also. So I don't know if Caitlin's all 100% on that, So he gets back to working on the speed cannon and asks Caitlin if she could help him. So this is when Cisco says he needs Caitlin right now. And Cisco and Caitlin start scanning Lisa, and they find traces of the bomb in her, telling her that when she was knocked out, her dad had to have injected her with it. So at Joe's place, Iris shows up, and Joe starts to tell her a story how while he was still a regular cop, while on the job, they got a call from a little girl telling them that her mom had taken pills and wouldn't get up. So Joe realizes that it was his address, the call came from. He rushes home, finding Iris in front of a stove with the flame on, and her mom passed out. So he gets Francine into a rehab, but she runs away from the rehab and pretty much disappears after that. He tells Iris that her mom didn't die and that she's alive and wants to see her. So, Iris is a little upset, and so Joe tries to give an explanation on why he did it. He didn't want Francine to break Iris's heart. Iris understands, that Joe was just trying to keep her safe, and, nothing pretty much exploded over that day. I'm glad about that. They had a good conversation, and Iris was really understanding about it. So I give her props for not blowing things out of the water. Alright, so back at Star Labs, Barry is holding a magnet against Lisa, and Caitlin tells Barry that if he holds the magnet still, she can surgically remove the bomb. This is when Cisco runs in and yells at them to not touch it, that if the bomb comes in contact with air, that it will explode. And so the team, they step back with the quickness. And so, they have to try to find another way to extract the bomb. And so Cisco tells Lisa, not to worry, they're going to find a way to get it out. He just needs some time. So Barry says while they're waiting, they have to keep tabs on Lewis. And since they know that Lewis just recently lost their tech guy, he should infiltrate the crew as the new tech guy. So that's that's pretty funny to me. But anyways, Barry finds Lenny again and tells him he knows all about Lisa and that the team is working on a way to extract the bomb. This is when Lewis walks in. Barry introduces himself as the tech guy, and Lenny had called him to help. So Lenny vouches for him, and Lewis is ready to head out for the job right then and there. So dressed as janitors, they try to get past security, but their IDs aren't working. And, Barry sees, that Lewis is already packing, and he's ready to take out these guards no matter what happens. So Barry gives them an excuse before Lewis can shoot them, and the guards let them up to the 27th floor. Where there are two more guards waiting for them. And looks like all of Lewis's backup plans are to shoot the guards. That's his plan B for everything. Anything that messes up, his plan B is to shoot the guards. So Barry zips out real quick, takes out the two guards, and tells, Lewis that they must have taken a break. And, Lewis, he's pretty much happy that his plan is going his way. So they get to the door, and Barry opens it up, pretty much. And Lewis tells him he did a good job before shooting him. So I guess before killing Barry, he wanted to give him some props beforehand. So, Barry didn't get shot. It pretty much shows us that Barry caught the bullet and faked getting hit. So we get back to Star Labs, and Cisco has a solution to get the bomb out, and that his plan isn't foolproof, but it should work on Lisa. And Lisa tells him that she trusts him and that he should go ahead and do it. So with the Snart family, Lenny shoots the laser down the hallway with his cold gun and walks right through them, telling his father he told him he had a better way past the lasers. And Lewis starts to crack the safe. Lenny tells him that he has 123 seconds to crack the safe before the police are notified. So Lewis opens up the safe, and we cut back to Lisa and Cisco getting ready to suck the bomb out of him when the flash calls, startling Caitlin and Cisco. Caitlin jumps, Cisco jumps. That could have been a disaster right then and there. And Barry tells them that they need to get that bomb out right now because the heist is going down. This is when the alarms start going off and the flash pops up in the hallway. telling them that, they're going back to Iron Heights. And Barry asks them what kind of person would put the bomb into their own daughter. And according to Lewis, a very rich person. So Lewis threatens, Lenny to shoot the Flash, or, he's going to blow Lisa up. And this is about the time when Cisco removes the bomb. And Flash tells Lenny, and, Lenny, he turns the cold gun onto Lewis. And Lewis is so surprised and asks Lenny, he thought he hated the Flash. And this is when Lenny tells him that, he hates his dad a lot more than he hates the Flash. So Flash walks up to him and asks Lenny why he killed his father, And Lenny tells him, that he broke his sister's heart, and it was only fair that he broke his. Don't mess with, Captain Cold's sister, everyone, There's nothing to mess with. So in the Iron Heights, Barry and Lenny are having a conversation, and he tells Lenny, that he knows his secret now, and pretty much his secret is that he'll do anything to protect his sister. He tells Lenny, that he has good in him, and that he can be more than a criminal. And, Lenny, he asks him, what exactly does being a hero pay? He's not on being a hero without, some kind of motivation or payout. So this is when, Barry and, Joe are talking about that they should probably transfer him to the metahuman prison, even though he's not a metahuman. They don't think Iron Heights will hold, Lenny for that long. So this is when Joe thanks, Barry for his advice about Francine. Iris took it well, and, Joe is happy about that. So we get back to CC Jitters, and Barry and Patty run into each other again. And Barry says they should make up a schedule for these run-ins that they're having. And, Patty thinks this is, her invitation to drop her number on him. And she does it with the quickness. And, Barry wasn't expecting that at all. And, Patty saves him by saying she just gave it to him if he needed a question about a case or something. And Barry just blows it, man. He did not pick up on that signal at all. So with Cisco and the Golden Glider, they're out there saying their goodbyes, and she tells Cisco that he might be her real first friend. And, Cisco asks her if any of that is true, because, in the first season, she lied to him a lot. So she answered the question with a kiss. So it looks like Cisco is doing a lot better job than Barry is in the ladies department. And, I'm rooting for my boy Cisco. He deserved all that and probably a little more. Hopefully we see more of the Golden Glider and Vibe hookups. I'm okay with that. So we get back to Star Labs, and, Jay has got the speed cannon, up and running. Cisco asks, can he try it out? But Professor Stein beats him to the punch. And it seems like the cannon is up and functioning. And it looks like it's time for Jay to go home. But this is when Caitlin convinces them that they still need his help with Zoom and the breaches. So Jay agrees to stay until they take care of Zoom and all the breaches. And this is when he heads out to get cleaned up. He's been down in that basement for the longest. So Professor Stein, he's down there and he decides that he's going to start to flame up. But, that doesn't happen unless, he has his partner with him. And, but instead of his normal red flames, it's blue. So if any of y'all have read comics, the only blue flames I've ever seen are from Deathstorm. And I don't think they probably aren't going that route yet, but it could be a possibility. But anyways, that's pretty much, we're at the end of the episode. And, we're in the basement again, and we see, the breach. And, it's the speed cannon now, everybody. It's the speed cannon. So we see that somebody is coming through the breach, and this Goodness, it's the speed cannon now. I'm gonna get it right. All right, so someone's coming through the speed cannon, and we see that it's Harrison Wells, or is it the Reverse Flash? So I guess we'll have to wait, to find out about that one, because we saw another episode where Harrison Wells was, in his own lab, and I don't know if that was the future or a different Earth. So since he came through the breach, I'm guessing it's a different Earth. So still wondering if he's actually Harrison Wells or the Reverse Flash. So hopefully, I'm glad Harrison Wells is back. I enjoyed his character from last season. It's about time he got back. And that's pretty much the end of this episode, you guys. Alright, so I'm going to leave you guys here. Tell me what you thought of the episode. Tell me what you didn't like of the episode. And I'll see you guys on my next video. Alright, you guys.